Welcome to part 2 of strategic capability. In this part, I'm going to be discussing resources and competencies. Resources are fairly straightforward, and those resources might be either tangible or they might be intangible. So tangible, you can see, touch, smell maybe. Intangible, they don't actually have a physical presence, so maybe a little bit more difficult to discern. To some extent, resources is like a shopping list. You need physical resources perhaps, even in the online digital world. You need machines or buildings, you need a production capacity if you're making things, or maybe you need storage and distribution chain, you need shops if you're retail. And you might need the right machines, the right capacity, you might need the shops in the right locations. So getting that list of resources, physical resource like that, becomes important. And in order to put together those physical resources, you need the finance, you need capital, you need cash flow to finance the operations. The firms that can raise the right amount of capital, ensure they're fully financed, and who can raise that finance at the lowest cost, of course, will be gaining some advantage over their competitors. No strategy is complete without people. So we need the right mix and number of people, the right skills and knowledge. We need a team of people who can work together. The intellectual capital becomes increasingly important these days. A firm which has got intangible assets or intangible resources such as patents, brands, particular knowledge, access to particular customers and knowledge of those customers, often have a huge advantage over their competitors. An example of a firm which has identified a key resource, a key physical resource, is Tesla. Now Tesla you will probably know of as a manufacturer of electric cars and also of spaceships. Now they want to be the world's largest manufacturer of electric cars. And one of the key components in electric cars is the right sort of batteries. And this is an interesting take on supplier power. Tesla don't want to be dependent upon the existing suppliers of suitable batteries. So they're trying to diminish the existing supplier power in Porter's Five Forces terms by building their own capability to manufacture batteries. This gives them control over the technology, gives them control over the costs, and ensures that they will get sufficient supply at the right time at the right quality. So they're building what's referred to as a gigafactory, or their gigafactory. It's at a cost of $3.8 billion. It covers an area of 3,200 acres. At the moment, they've built 1.9 billion square feet of manufacturing facility, which is only 14% of the intended total. They don't plan to finish before 2020, at which point they will have a massive 5.8 million square feet devoted to manufacturing batteries for electric powered vehicles. And in total, they'll probably have something like 10,000 employees. So this is a huge undertaking in terms of identifying the resource, financing it, putting it all together, and managing it, with the intention, of course, of becoming the world's largest manufacturer. Not necessarily of batteries, but they probably will be largest manufacturer of batteries. But their further aim is to be the largest manufacturer of electric powered vehicles. Here's a picture. This is the existing extent of construction, which is starting to work now, and this is the area which eventually the whole factory will cover. There's another short video you can look at on StudySpace, which has a look inside the factory. So that's managing resources on a huge scale. Enormous risk, but ultimately, they hope, of course, a huge reward. Resources then are fairly straightforward to understand. You can see and touch them in most cases, even the intangible ones. You understand the importance of brands or intellectual knowledge or patents and so forth. Competencies are a slightly more difficult concept to understand. Competencies are not so much what you do, but how you do it. So competencies are rooted in the skills and expertise and experience of your employees. So competencies typically reside in people, typically arise through teamwork or collaboration, and they arise over time as the people in the organization learn, and as that organization builds up its proficiency in certain areas of that require particular skills and expertise. Now, particular core competence, or sometimes refers to as a distinctive capability, are activities or processes that critically underpin an organization's competitive advantage. So a core competence is something that you do particularly well, and it's aligned with the competitive advantage which you're trying to achieve. And firms with a core competence generally have a significantly better level of performance than their competitors. So in Porter's terms, they're going to achieve a higher level of profitability than others in their sector. To try and help you understand a bit more about what core competencies might be, here's a list of different areas in which firms might develop competency or core competency. So you're familiar with the speed and the frequency with which Apple produce new products. They bring out new products faster than their competitors. They develop the integration of technology faster than their competitors, and they start to rove around different markets, which gives them a huge advantage in terms of being first into a number of different integrations of technology. You're probably perhaps also familiar with the reputation which John Lewis has for providing good customer service in the store and also very good after-sales service. They do things very simply, but how do they manage to achieve that high reputation for customer service and after-sales service so much better than other firms? It's hidden away in their organizational culture and their way of doing things. BMW has a good reputation for manufacturing very high quality products. Boohoo, a recent rising competitor for ASOS, is a firm which is very good at spotting the latest fashion trends and making sure they're available to their online customers. And Uber are a firm that have managed to figure out a way of making sure they can fulfill customer orders very quickly, very accurately, hopefully, and also much cheaper than the competition. They've really shaken up the market by their use of and implementation of technology. So core competencies are key in achieving competitive advantage. They're difficult to spot because they're not what you do, but how you do it. So it all happens amongst people. It's often hidden away within an organization. So those core competencies reside in people and the teams they work in, which makes them very difficult to spot. And therefore, of course, difficult to imitate. You know what they're doing, but you're not quite sure how they do it. So in order to ultimately achieve sustainable competitive advantage, Barney, who's referred to in the core textbook, came up with a framework to understand whether or not your bundle of capabilities, of resources and competencies has the possibility of actually attaining sustainable competitive advantage. So Barney says that in order to have that sustainability, the capabilities in terms of the mix of resources and competencies must have value for your ultimate customers. So you have to identify their critical success factors and be aiming to satisfy those. In order to be sustainable, that capability must be rare. It must be close to unique. And that might be particularly true, of course, of the core competency rather than the particular resources you're managing in order to achieve those critical success factors that satisfy your chosen group of customers. The rarer they are, the more hidden away they are, the easier it is to achieve inimitability. Make it difficult for your competitors to simply copy what you're doing. And in order to achieve that, then there must be a good organizational support. The structure, the culture must be supportive of those particular competencies and resources that are required to achieve that competitive advantage.